Okay, so this video is going to explore further love addiction, or even if it's not like full-fledged, like I'm a love addict and I get addicted to every relationship I'm in, but maybe you just find like one particular relationship or person in your life that it's really hard to like let go of and move on. This is going to kind of talk about maybe the psychological reasons, mental, mind, ego things that kind of keep us holding on. Because seriously, like as a psychic and tarot reader, I just do a lot of readings on relationships and people struggling with, relationship issues and unsatisfying relationships and, being in a holding pattern or a waiting game and love triangles and just, all various forms of drama that play out in relationships. And one of the most common things that I encounter, probably one of the most common questions I get is, should I move on? I've been dating this guy and, he's not really putting a lot of effort into the relationship. Should I move on? Or I'm dating this girl and she is, struggling with an addiction and having all these issues, and I'm getting kind of tired of it. Is she going to change or should I move on? And that's usually the thing, is like, is the situation or the person going to change or should I move on? If it's not, should I move on or should I wait and be patient? That's kind of the dilemma that most people find themselves in when relationships are at a crossroads. Or, sometimes that can be the whole relationship. The honeymoon phase is actually really short, and the crossroad drama, tension, back and forth, schizophrenia, should I stay or should I go, can, dominate, for months and years even sometimes for people. Another thing that's common is a relationship is already over, someone broke up with, a person, and the person can't quite let go. And sometimes it's, it's just all in their mind, like the other person is done, they've moved on, there's really no reason for this person to hold on, but they just can't let go. Maybe because they're sort of experiencing and projecting their fantasy and their hopes and their dreams and their ideals onto the situation rather than seeing reality. Or sometimes, the other person hasn't completely moved on, and they might sometimes call them, or they might kind of give them an indication that, there's a reason to hold on and stay hopeful about the relationship dynamic. Another scenario that I encounter a lot is, meeting someone who is married or in a serious relationship with someone else and wondering, maybe in the beginning it felt like, oh, he or she's going to leave their partner and then we can be together and live happily ever after. But then it doesn't happen, and there's all these reasons, financial, kids, house, all this stuff that kind of keeps somebody married, rather than leaving the relationship, even though they're not happy enough to like not have an affair. There's all these practical reasons, excuses really, for like staying in the marriage. And so then the third party is wondering, is this going to change or should I move on? And a lot of times, people in those kinds of situations, they will end up leaving the relationship. Like my client would be the person who's maybe attracted to or drawn to somebody who's married or in a relationship, and they do ultimately decide, you know what, I can't settle and be the other woman or the other man or whatever, and they do leave, and they move forward in terms of their actions, but emotionally they're still hoping that, you know, so-and-so is gonna realize that that relationship is no good, or, you know, they finally leave, the divorce goes through, like whatever. And so they're, you know, it's like emotionally they're still waiting, they're still hoping that something's going to change. And so they're like asking me as a psychic, is it going to end, or should I let go of my feelings? Because really, that's what moving on is. You can take all kinds of action, physical actions, to move yourself forward, and those do help. I mean, it's definitely better to physically do things that indicate moving on, you know, new activities, moving to, you know, out of the relationship physically, whatever. But, you know, true moving on is more of an internal state, because a lot of people I talk to, you know, they maybe left a relationship, or they, you know, were broken up, and they're dating other people. They're on, you know, Match.com or eharmony, and they're just, you know, dating all these people. They have all this energy around them, but emotionally they're not really drawn to anybody. They're like comparing all of these people to this person that they're longing and pining for, and hoping that, you know, something's going to change. So a lot of times, you know, it's hard to predict what another person is or isn't going to do, because they have free will, and the situations and the people they might be involved with have free will, and it's all interconnected, and it's all cause and effect. And so if you call psychics and you find yourself, you know, asking these questions, know that even the most clairvoyant psychic type person could be wrong about what they tell you in either direction, whether they say yes it's going to change or no it's not. You just don't truly know. There are no guarantees. And even if you're somebody who doesn't call psychics, but you still find yourself, you know, struggling, maybe wanting to let go, but you find that you can't, you know, you can't move on truly emotionally. I think you've got to, you got to grieve, you got to feel your feelings, and you've got to look at what the connection is trying to teach you about yourself, what you need to heal, what patterns are present. A lot of times those patterns go back into childhood, our relationship with our parents, our siblings, early relationships, you know, romantic relationships, and a lot of times attractions don't really end or go away or resolve themselves, and we can't move on emotionally until we figure that out. That's one kind of like Spirit's way of kind of keeping you hooked into that situation, so that the suffering or the thinking and the wondering and the obsessing about it will maybe lead you to some aha, some insight, you know? And there comes a point, though, where you may gather the insight, you may analyze it every which way, and you know, like, this person's in my life for this, and this person's in my life for that, and, you know, you figure it out, but you still can't move on. People want to move on because it hurts to hold on, you know? There's emotional, physical pain. It drains your self-confidence. It distracts you from being present and focused on yourself and your own life. If it, you know, involves a third party, there's jealousy, there's envy, there's insecurity that comes into play, and it can really start to feel pretty dysfunctional and unhealthy. And yet, despite that, you still can't move on. And the thing that I have discovered is that a lot of times the fear of letting go or moving on comes from two things offhand. One is that there's a fear that if I let go of this hope and this dream and this feeling and longing, that so-and-so is going to eventually, wake up and come back to me and be with me. If I let go of that and then they come back, what if I don't want them? What if I don't like them? And then the dream never gets to happen, And the thing that I tell people, and what I want to tell you, if you struggle with this, is that if that happens, if you let go, and you let go of your attraction, and you detach from your longings, and you kind of detach and let go of the situation, and they come back and you don't care, you're not going to care. It won't hurt the way you think it will right now, because right now you're emotionally attached. So the thought of that happening just seems like horrible, irony and a cruel joke from the universe, But if you truly let go and you truly detach and you move on and this person comes back, you've moved on. So you got to tell yourself and let yourself know that it's not going to be as painful. If anything, it might be kind of funny, or you might get some gratification, and be like, well, you had your chance, sorry, and it can maybe heal the part of you that felt rejected or not good enough because this person, didn't choose to be with you at the time. So it's just not going to be, if that happens, if they do decide to come back, it's not going to be as painful or frustrating or whatever as you might imagine it now while you are emotionally attached. The other thing is people do not want to let go of their feelings for another person, or their attraction to another person, or the memory and the hope for similar types of experiences as those good memories. They don't want to let go of it because, in a sense, it has been responsible for creating a high, a chemical high in the brain. Love does that, it can. That kind of love creates a physical high in the brain. And, especially when you've started a relationship and it was only in that new relationship energy phase where you've totally idealized them, and you've never got to the power struggle phase where you start to see them, in a more critical light, and you eventually kind of evolve and, have a more unconditional, balanced love for one another. If a relationship ends while you're still in the honeymoon phase, it can be really hard to let go because this person is sort of, freeze-framed in this idyllic state, and you've never truly experienced the shadow side of them, except for maybe the rejection or, whatever choices they're making that is not allowing the relationship to progress. But, the shadow side of their personality, or the things you wouldn't necessarily like about them or whatever, to kind of balance it out. So that can be really hard, and you're still kind of addicted to the high in a sense. And so to let go of the feelings is to let go of this high. But the thing with any drug or addiction is that in the beginning, it always feels great. It's wonderful. But over time, anything that has an addictive quality, if you don't get the same supply, or you need more in order to maintain the high and you can't have more, it usually has some kind of negative effect. It's never as good as it was in the beginning. And if you don't have it, or it's not behaving, in this case, let's say we'll use cigarettes as an example. In the beginning, you get a little bit of a buzz, and that feels good. And, you know, you feel cool, or you, whatever, you know, thing that goes on for a person. So many people start when they're young, so there's like a cool factor. And just focusing your thoughts, and, you know, just the things that people generally like about smoking. Well, over time, you know, it ages you, it's ruining your lungs, it's expensive, it stinks, everything smells like smoke. In a sense, you know, you may even get to a place where it's like you don't even really enjoy it, but you just have this need for it. Your body craves it and requires it in order to function. But even so, it's like it's not doing it anything positive really for you. It just, you need it in order to feel normal. And it's actually doing a lot of damage, but you still hold on to it. Well, love feelings, addictive love feelings, or, you know, being at that crossroads of, do I continue to hold on to hope, or do I move on? A lot of times when you're in that place, it's actually, that hope is actually damaging. You know, it's distracting you from moving forward and having relationships that are fulfilling. It's distracting you from maybe building your career and your dreams. It's distracting you from just loving yourself and letting your sense of okayness come from, you know, self-approval and things you enjoy, and creativity or fun or children or whatever, you know. You get fixated, just like a smoker who wants to quit but can't gets fixated on smoking. Hyper, you know, focused on it. Same is true for a person who's at that point of, should I stay or should I go? So the thing you have to realize is, and admit to yourself, that you might be, the hope that you have may not be so much based on reality, but on the high memories, the dreamy times when things were good. You might be focusing more on that rather than how the reality situation makes you feel. Because the reality of a man who's, you know, choosing to be with his wife rather than you feels bad, you know, or the person who dumped you and doesn't want to call you or talk to you or return your calls or emails or whatever, that feels bad. The, you know, whatever situation you know you're dealing with, if it's not progressing, it's probably feeling bad on some level. And so what you need to actually let go of is the hope and the dream and the nostalgia and the memories, and set them aside. And a lot of times we don't want to do that because we fear we won't feel as good as we did in the beginning of the relationship. And you got to let yourself know, just like someone who's quitting smoking, know that you will feel normal again. You will feel good again without this drug. You will create a new normal for yourself, you know, and it's up to you to find ways to make yourself feel good and to do things you enjoy and to nurture yourself. And, you know, the first week or 2 weeks of letting go of the hope that so-and-so's coming back, you may go through a withdrawal. You know, you may feel crappy, you may cry a lot, you may get sick even, you know. Ride it out. Just like any other addiction, you got to get it out of your system. You got to reprogram your brain to not go in that thought pattern. You know, you got to think of something else. Just like if someone's quitting smoking and an urge, craving for a cigarette comes up, you can sit and you can think about it and obsess about it, or you can go do the dishes and play a song and sing, and you know, you distract yourself, and it creates new brain patterns. It's, I guess, like behavioral modification. And you can do the same thing when you're trying to let go of love. And if it's too scary, when you combine it with the thought of like, oh, but what if I let go and they come back? Know that you can reevaluate at that time. If you let go and move on, and this person that you're longing for wakes up and decides that you're the best thing on earth and they got to be with you, you can change your mind. If you're meant to be with them, that attraction, that love, the memories will come back in a new form, probably in a more grounded, healthy form by then, because you will have, grounded and rerouted your energy into yourself, which is what you actually need in order to be in a relationship. So, if it's meant to be, you'll still have access to the essence of what it is you're letting go of now. Or you won't care because you don't want to be with that person anyway. So you really don't have anything to lose in the long run. It's your mind and your inner child, usually, because a lot of times it's triggering, some abandonment stuff that you probably need to heal too. It's not who you are today. You're not losing out by letting go. If anything, you're losing out by holding on. So let go and heal and nurture yourself and trust that if it's meant to be, it will be. If it's not, and you really let yourself let go and move on, you won't care.
Let's cut out the melodrama so we can wake up the whole wide world. Let's make up and start all over and awaken the boys and the girls.